Hello everybody, Yom Tov. What can I tell you about today? It is sweltering here. I think it was about 26 or something along those lines centigrade. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's warm here today. And as you can see, I've got some of my fans sort of spread out. It's an old one, it's a very old one. And honestly, I've been using this stuff to cool down. I put on this special face gel. It's a facial antiperspirant. It's defeated the facial antiperspirant. So goodness me knows what's going on here. Obviously, I won't be having the fan going the whole time while I'm reading the stories to you today, but oh dear me. We've got this until Friday, I believe, and then we're heading for thunderstorms. Now, I love thunderstorms. I really do. Thunder and lightning. Love it. And you know what? I love being outside in it as well. Although it's probably just as well that I don't go outside when it's lightning, because knowing my lot and sitting in a wheelchair, it's like one's up and I'm more or less gone. And then I come back to you with frizzier hair that I've trying to tame, with black smuts all over my face from being half burnt and God knows what, from being hit by lightning. But that's just me. I'll probably still come back and use it for my spooky sessions, and then I wouldn't have to bother trying to look scary, because then I'd look really scary, I would imagine. Anyway, how are you all today? Are you sweltering as much as me? Have you had to go out and invest in a hand fan to try and keep yourself cool, or have you got electric fans? Or see, we don't have AC air conditioners. Well, certainly not wherever I've lived. We've never had air conditioning. The only place I've got air conditioning is in the car, and it's not really worth sitting in the car just trying to cool down. To come back into the house with open windows and no breeze. So it's not really worth it. Anyway, enough of that chit chat. It is your weekly folk tales and fables. And instead of doing these now fortnightly, we're going to be doing them weekly, because I've assigned Thursdays for your true crime. So tomorrow you're going to be getting true crime. So that's going to happen on Thursdays, and your folk tales and fables are going to stay on Wednesdays. So Monday you'll be having me ranting about something or other, or a topic that you've chosen. Tuesdays will be time for tarot. Wednesdays will be folk tales and fables from around the world. Thursdays will be true crime from wherever in the world I happen to find one that we haven't spoken about before, or something that catches my eye, or one that has been suggested to me. And Fridays, of course, spooky sessions. So I have been asked about the live streams. Now, I'll be honest with you, I do miss them. And yes, I've got the StreamYard there, but I've got to keep in mind there are an awful lot of Haveners who don't like to use Facebook, who won't use Facebook. And it's really only through there that I can sort of access the StreamYard. So that only leaves me with YouTube. And I've not had an awful lot of success on YouTube recently. The last twice that I've tried to hold a live stream, I've been reported. And, or, it's been mention of a forbidden word, or that the bots are sorting out either through hearing it or seeing it typed or something, and it's so horrifically like George Orwell's 1984 that it makes me feel very uncomfortable and very uneasy. So until either someone gets really tired of reporting me, or we get back to some kind of normality, I just don't know what to do about the live streams. And I don't think that I should have the final say on it. I think it should be a decision made by Haveners about what you want. And if you want me to do it on YouTube, just be prepared not to mention anything to do with any current health problems that have been affecting everybody around the world, and just to be prepared for the live streams to be stopped for me to desperately try and get back in. So it's up to you. I need the final decision to come from you guys, so it's entirely up to you. Okay? Now, as we're getting back to the topic at hand, that it is today's folk tales and fables, I was asked by a girl that has been a Havener more or less from the beginning, but she hasn't really talked very much. And the first time I actually spoke to her was on my Pride video last June. Now, just keeping in mind, guys, I do know it's still June and it's still Pride month. I managed to buy a t-shirt that I love, and I bought it from a friend who says she's posted it. I'm waiting for it to arrive, and as soon as it arrives, I'm going to be making another. I'm very proud mother of a wonderful, handsome gay young man, and speaking out about how I feel about LGBTQ, and that I'm in fully support. I fully support LGBTQ. You know, and whomever they are for, you know something. One of these days I'll be able to get out a sentence coherently that I support all of you. That's basically it. Anyway, this lovely girl is likes to be known as Chaz or Chelsea, and for the sake of typing and what have you, I've decided just to call her Chaz. And she came back to the Haven the other day, and she actually said, would it be possible, could we have some folk tales from the UK? But England, you haven't really done any from England. You've done Wales and you've done Scotland, and probably Ireland's crept in there as well somewhere, but I haven't done any on England. So these folk tales are, you know, they're for everybody, but they're dedicated to Chaz. So Chaz, darling, if you're sitting there watching, hello. I've sorted out, they're only very short because there's never a great deal of information about some folk tales and urban legends and things like that. Well, that's what you'd ask for, urban legends. Now, some of the urban legends are the sort that you'd only keep for a Friday night. So I've had to be careful about that. But as with most things, not all urban legends are pleasant. Not all of them have got wonderful endings. Really, that's how I think they become urban legends, because it's always about running away with the fairies or getting taken by goblins or pixies or something like that. So what I've done is I've had a look today on a particular site, a UK site, and oh yes, that's what it is. I'll tell you who it was. There's a programme on British TV called Country File, and you know, these are a group of people, and they'll talk about what it's like living in the country. They talk about working, you know, in the country, how you can have various jobs working in the countryside as opposed to being in town. And they put up just one page on their website dedicated to the urban legends and the folk tales and of places where they've been to. So I'm now going to basically put into a nutshell what they've been talking about. And what they've actually said is there are eerie tales of dreadful creatures stalking the land that have long terrified us Britons. And they're going to have a look, so I'm obviously going to be reading it to you, at infamous British myths and the legends and folklore tales, plus the best sites to visit in the UK that have really inspired these stories. So, without further ado, I'm putting on my glasses and I'm going to read to you what was said there. Now, under the umbrella of British myths and legends, it says, a boulder-strewn blockfield covers the lonely summit plateau of Britain's second highest peak, Ben Macdui in the Cairngorms. Cairngorms are in Scotland. It has a terrible beauty, a sprawling, desolate landscape of wide open space where everything conspires to make you feel small. The isolation of this spot is tangible, and when the summit is deserted, an air of separation from the world as a whole quickly overcomes your senses. In Britain's most Arctic environment, survival is constantly in the balance, and although the long walk to the summit is not difficult in fair weather, the balance tips very easily. Like all mountains, the Cairngorms are fickle, occasionally spiteful, and even a slight change in conditions can throw the visitor into another world entirely. Now, one place where they say you can feel a certain atmosphere is Pendle Hill in Lancashire. Now, there are stories about the witches of Pendle, and there's a circular group of stones there, and then there's a smaller circle inside where you can have a small fire. And from what I can gather, if you go to Pendle Hill in Lancashire, which is on the western side of England, rumour has it that if you go there at the witching hour, which is midnight, they reckon most spooky things tend to happen between sort of 12 and between 3 and 4 a.m. But Pendle Hill, it says, Pendle Hill in Lancashire is a place surrounded by myths and legends. Stories of the Pendle witches draw thousands of pagans to the hill every year. The stone circle is a remnant of a pagan ceremony performed under a new moon in the shadow of Pendle, because there's a village there called Pendle. Don't know if it's a village or a small town. I've never ever been. So there's somewhere, if anybody wants to come to the UK, you can go to Pendle, or if you're already in the UK, there's somewhere that you can go and visit. Now, here's something. By his own account, this is what happened to a renowned climber, scientist and fellow of the Royal Society, J. Norman Colley, at the end of the 19th century. Years later, he recalled hearing low, deliberate footsteps, one vast step for every 3 or 4 of his own, following him on the mountain. This is Ben Macdui. He says, as I walked on and the eerie crunch, crunch sounded behind me, I was seized with terror and took to my heels, staggering blindly among the boulders for 4 or 5 miles. This is what he told a meeting at the Cairngorm Club in 1925. Now, if you look at a map of the UK, and you're at the very bottom of the UK, and it goes off into a tail. Now, that tail, that part there, is called Cornwall. And Cornwall they say is one of the, well, outside, I think, of Glastonbury, where they have Glastonbury Tour, and obviously they have the festival there every year. But Cornwall is a very, very spiritual place. The belief in paganism, very strong there. The belief in fairies. There's things called the Cornish piskies. I'll tell you about them. The belief in piskies all over Cornwall sought to explain a portfolio of peculiarities and odd phenomena, especially around the mining areas, where, if the stories are to be believed, they almost acquired the status of supernatural vermin during the 19th century. Here, between Pendeen and St Just, at Carn Kennejack and Woon Gumpus Common, the folklore takes a sinister turn, a reflection perhaps of the wildness of this stretch of moorland. The Carn and the Common are where the devil rides a black horse, and hapless mortals must run for a stile to escape his grasp. Dancing lights are seen to this day on Woon Gumpus and Carn Kennejack, which is known as the Hooting Cairn, on account of the wail the wind makes through its granite tor. Very mysterious. Now, piskies, that's right, because I got them confused with pixies. They might not be as obviously as malign as the devil, but stories of pisky interactions with humans tell how they have the power to abduct, befuddle, and lead people astray all over the landscape. You are more vulnerable if you happen to find yourself on a fairy path, the dead straight routes that, like their modern equivalents in myth, the ley lines, connect the fairy forks with their various tumps and tumuli. Now, there's also a creature is said to walk Ben Macdui, and that gentleman, J. Norman Colley, when he said he'd heard these giant footsteps coming up behind him and he had to flee for his life, or that's how he felt. It was said that he had a classic case of a brush with the big grey man, which is known as Anfair Leach Mór, and he is the big grey man of Ben Macdui, an enduring myth of an extremely large Sasquatch-like grey figure covered in short hair. Wherever the grey man ventures, he is accompanied by a sense of irrational panic and retreat. Although Colley, who vowed never to return to the mountain alone, saw nothing, others were not so lucky. In October 1943, while on 10 days' leave, a soldier called Alexander Tunian reached the summit of the mountain and immediately noticed in the swirling mist that the atmosphere became dark and oppressive. A fierce, bitter wind whisked among the boulders, and an odd sound echoed through the mist, and it sounded like a loud footstep. Then another, and another, and then a strange shape loomed up in front of him, receded, and then came charging at him. Without hesitation, he whipped out his pistol and fired 3 times at the figure, but it still came after him. And his answer to that was, he took off. He ran away, because if 3 bullets aren't going to stop this thing, then the best thing he can do is run. And I'll be quite honest with you, if it had been me, I would have done exactly the same thing. I would have turned tail and run away. Apparently, sometimes this can be caused, people who think they've seen something big, like this big grey man. It's called a Brocken spectre, and it's where the mists at the top of the mountain tend to sometimes get caught up in the wind, and it can look as if it's forming a figure. And it's a bit like when you're so frightened and you've already got an image in your mind of what might be coming for you. It's sort of like, almost like a projection of what you're frightened of, and then your mind playing tricks on you. So it could be caused by that. And that's what's called the Brocken Spectre. And it's really just the wind and the mist, and the sound that the wind makes. And when you're up there on your own and somebody's already told you about the big grey man, I do believe that your mind's going to play tricks on you. And it doesn't mean that it's anything to do with the paranormal. I don't think there's anything supernatural about it. I honestly just think it is what it is. It's nature, and nature playing tricks on man's minds. So that's that. So that's that. Now, another legend that I can tell you about is a legend in East Anglia. Now, if you look again at the map of the UK, and as you come down the side of the UK, on the right-hand side, if you're looking at the map, and you'll see a bit of a bump sticking out. Well, round about there is roughly East Anglia. And there's a legend of a big black dog that's called Black Shock. Now, the black dog legend is probably the most common local myth in Britain. But in East Anglia, the one local variant that stands out is Black Shock. Now, along the coastal flats of East Anglia, among the graveyards, by the crossroads in its darkest forests, lurks a fear stirred first in the early medieval mind. In Suffolk, this calf-sized malevolent hound with saucer-sized glowing red eyes is a harbinger of doom and death. It often appears during electrical storms, such as the one that struck both churches of Bungay and Blythburgh on the same day and at the same moment in August of 1577, leaving scorched claw marks on the church door at Blythburgh. And there were two fatalities to that. And apparently it says, all down the church in mists of fire, the hellish monster flew, and passing on toward the choir, he many people slew. And that was a verse written about Black Shock in 1577. Now, there is a Scottish version of Black Shock, who's called the Sith, and it's a wolf-like creature the size of a bull but coloured dark green. It lives in the clefts of rocks and carries souls away to the afterlife. Another spectral hound with saucer-sized eyes, the Sith, howls 3 times, and if you haven't reached a place of safety by the 3rd bay, you're overcome with mortal fear and you drop dead on the spot. So that's really unfortunate. So if you hear a hound baying once and then you hear it again, I would be like, let's run for a safe place. You know, telephone box or somewhere like that, if there are any such things left. Apparently, there's also the tales of another black dog. This one has been found on the outskirts of Sheffield, which is Sheffield, sort of South Yorkshire, and it's a lovely city, Sheffield. I've been there a few times, and it's called the Black Dog of Bunting, Nook. And this peculiar suburban version of the black dog prowls along a quiet leafy lane on the outskirts of Sheffield. The dog appears from nowhere in front of cars and makes the engines stall. For some reason, it's only interested in the car's passenger. The hound dematerialises into a green mist if it's threatened. So my advice to you, my friends, is if you're ever on the outskirts of Sheffield and you see a big, huge dog that stops in front of your car and stalls the engine, just sit and look at it. Don't threaten it, because it doesn't like that. Just wait till it disappears into a green mist and then carry on driving. Now, apparently this is really, really something weird. Between two places called Cherrybrook and Postbridge in Devon, there's a stretch of road called the B3212, right? And when you're driving between these two places, now this is an urban legend, definitely not a folktale, not a fable, this is an urban legend, that if you drive between these two places, you can have your car inhabited by some kind of creature that has hairy hands, and it will place its hairy hands over your hands where you've got it on the steering wheel. And if you keep your hands out, obviously you're going to be terrified, and you've got this beast that is, excuse me, I'm not feeling very comfy today. If you're driving, so say you've got your hands like that on your steering wheel, right? And then all of a sudden, I'll just pretend it's this hand. So you're driving along and you've got your thing like that. And then all of a sudden, now imagine this is the hairy hand. And then all of a sudden, comes across your hand like that and starts driving the car with you. And then whichever way round it is, whether it's what's it called, Cherrybrook and Postridge, whichever way around it is, it's then stops and you get control back of your car. But it doesn't actually stop you driving, it just drives the car in between these two places. Now, I know that sounds like a tall tale from me. It is not. I actually found this on the Country File site, and it's just called the hairy hands. Sometimes the driver will be so freaked out that they'll just sort of take their hands off the wheel, and then this hairy hands creature thing just ends up driving you into a ditch. I don't know whether any of this is true or not. Apparently it's happened to some cyclists where some kind of creature where you can only see the hands and the forearms, mind, and they're covered in hair, and they'll hold on to the bike handles, so that's like motorcycles, ordinary push bikes, pedal cycles, cars. Don't know about trucks and vans though, might be a bit big for it. But anyway, it has been said that this has happened between Cherrybrook and Postridge. So, and that's in Devon, along a road called the B3212. So you can go along it and see if you get molested by the creature with the hairy hands. I'm not going to. I'll let somebody else do that. Right, what else have I got for you here? Oh yes, very famous one in the UK. The Beast of Bodmin Moor. Now, the Beast of Bodmin Moor has been going, oh my goodness, it's been going for as long as I've been alive. And it's supposed to be, originally thought, well, when I was growing up anyway, it looks like a giant Black Panther. It's absolutely huge, this thing. There's supposed to be photographs taken of it. I have seen them. And if you look up the Beast of Bodmin Moor, I believe you'll see some photographs taken of what looks like this giant black cat. Now, some people have tried to debunk it by saying it's just a little black cat taken up close. But apparently it's not. It is this huge, ferocious, big black cat, bigger than a panther. from what I've read, if there's cattle about, it will take them. If there's sheep, lambs about, it will take them. You know, livestock, goats, stuff like that, chickens. But then it just disappears, and nobody seems to know exactly where it emanates from and where it goes back to, because nobody's ever been able to find it. You know, they've taken photographs of it, but I don't understand why they've never tried to track it to see where it comes from and where it goes to. But that's one of our famous. It's more along a folk tale come urban legend, I would have thought. Although it can't really be urban because it's always seen in the countryside. I don't know. I can never get anything right. So some people have tried to say that it's an escaped puma, but I've never heard of an escaped puma. Now, apparently, there is a place, and I'm trying to find out where this place is. I don't know exactly what part of the world this is, but it's called, this creature, the Owl Man of Mornan. And it says, at the end of a narrow lane in a small churchyard of Mornan, Mawnan, if you want to look it up. It's 13th century church over the mouth of the Helford River. And in adjacent wood there were sightings of a flying creature about 5 feet tall, half man, half owl, with glowing red eyes. Apparently it's got silver feathers, crab-like claws, and it has been seen regularly since the 1970s. And the only people who have ever seen it have been either women or young girls. It never seems to show itself to men. So that's not strictly fair. The Owl Man really should show himself to everybody. So there's him, and then there are, right, in Cornwall again, that's the tail bit end I was telling you about before, there's a creature called the Spriggan of West Penwith, and this apparently is a supernatural creature. It's apparently a really grotesquely ugly hobgoblin crossed with a pisky, and it's really quite nasty. Apparently it's supposedly guards burial mounds, old burial mounds from way back in the day. Probably before even pagan times. They're supposed to guard those things. But they were known for stealing babies out of cribs and putting a changeling there in its place. So again, I think that's more of folklore than anything else, but this only happens in Cornwall, and that's what it's called, a Spriggan. It's a cross between a really ugly hobgoblin and a pisky, and really spiteful as well. And the very last one I'm going to tell you about is something called the Knuckle Abbey. Now, the Knuckle Abbey apparently appears in the Orkneys. Now, if you look at a map of the UK, and you look right to the top of Scotland, and there are a group of islands. There's the Orkneys, and then there's the Shetland Islands, right? I can never remember which way around they are. Well, anyway, in the Orkneys, there lives, apparently, according to legend, a skinless human horse. Half human, half horse. It's a being of rage and pestilence. The Knucklelavi has the head of a man, except it's much, much larger, and its body feeds into that of a horse. Now, it's like got the skull, but it's not just a bear's skull, it's just a person but skinned, and the rest of it's all skinned, and the horse is also skinned. And that, as I say, that's the Knuckleavi, and apparently it actually does live in the sea. It's supposedly got flippers for feet, but it can come on land, and it does take livestock. So some people are very suspicious, and they just obviously want to protect their livestock, so they protect against this creature. Apparently, if its breath apparently can make your crops fail, it can make your livestock sick, it can make you feel sick, and if you try and attack it in any way, it will kill you. So that's the Knuckleavi, and it's Nucklevee. That's how you spell that, Knuckleavi. And oh yes, and the only way to get away from a Knuckleavi is to jump across a spring of fresh water. So if there's a little brook or something that feeds fresh water through it instead of seawater, that's the one thing it can't jump across, is fresh water. So that's the only way you can get away from a Knuckleavi. So, oh my goodness, I think I've gone over time today. What with one thing and another. So there you have it. Sorry, excuse me. I had to take a drink there, I was so dry. These are your urban legends and some folk tales and things for you today from England and other parts of the United Kingdom. I mean, a good few weeks ago I told you about the lantern worm, and that's obviously up near my neck of the woods. And I didn't bother mentioning it again because I've already told you about the lantern worm, so you know that exists. But the rest of these things I haven't talked to you about before. So these are some of the little bits and pieces that you probably never have heard of, but this is what's hanging around in the UK. I'm sure there are tons of other things, but not enough time to talk about them today. So I might revisit these at another time. Right, my friends, I do really hope that you have enjoyed today's folk tales and fables, urban legends as they were, badly told by me. Chaz, I do hope you've enjoyed your video, love, and just let me know how you felt about it. That would be great. I'm going to see you guys again very, very soon, because tomorrow is True Crime Day. And I was going to tell you who I was going to talk about, but I'm not going to. It's going to be a surprise. So I'll tell you all about it tomorrow when I see you. Anyway, I want to thank you all again for being here and listening to me waffle on. I want to thank you for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed some of it. And there's plenty of the folk tales out there that I've done, if you want to watch them. They're not all folk tales, some of them are children's stories that, I've had requests for. But don't forget, I'm always open to requests for any of the stories that I tell. So if anybody wants me to tell a particular story, just tell me and I'll do it. Okay? So I will see you all again very, very soon. And I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're having the best time possible. Okay, I love you all. And I'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye-bye for now. Just for you. Bye for now, guys. Bye.